In early 2025, a Chinese warship quietly sailed through the Philippine Sea. There were no dramatic announcements, no combat operations, no missiles fired, but naval analysts noticed something immediately. That single ship was carrying enough missiles to overwhelm an entire U.S. carrier strike group, the most powerful naval formation on Earth. This wasn't an aircraft carrier, it wasn't a submarine, it wasn't even officially a cruiser. It was classified as a destroyer. The ship was a Type 055, and it represents one of the most dramatic shifts in naval power the world has seen in decades. It's 13,000 tons of steel, electronics, and missiles designed not to defend China's coastline, but to challenge the United States Navy far from home. For most of the last 80 years, American control of the oceans has been almost unquestioned. U.S. aircraft carriers move freely across the globe. American destroyers escort them through every major sea lane. When the U.S. Navy shows up, conflicts often end before they begin. But something has changed. When analysts compare China's Type 055 to the U.S. Navy's Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the backbone of American surface warfare, an uncomfortable truth emerges. China didn't try to match the Burke. They didn't copy it. They built something bigger, newer, and designed for a very different kind of war. And now, Pentagon planners are quietly asking a question that would have seemed unthinkable 20 years ago. What happens if the U.S. Navy no longer has an automatic advantage at sea? To understand why the Type 055 has the U.S. Navy worried, you first need to understand what China actually built, because the name doesn't tell the full story. What China actually built. Officially, the Type 055 is called a destroyer. That label is misleading. At approximately 13,000 tons displacement, the Type 055 is larger than almost every destroyer currently in service anywhere in the world. In fact, it is comparable in size to many cruisers, including the U.S. Navy's Ticonderoga-class cruisers. By comparison, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer displaces about 9,500 tons. That means the Type 055 outweighs it by roughly 3,500 tons, about the size of an entire small warship. This wasn't an accident. China deliberately designed the Type 055 to be large, because size creates options. A bigger hull allows for more missiles, larger radars, more powerful computers, greater electrical generation, and more internal space for future systems. In naval design, size equals flexibility. The Type 055 was designed to be a flagship. That means it's intended to lead naval formations, carrier strike groups, amphibious assault groups, and surface action groups operating far from China's shores. It is built to command, coordinate, and fight in the most contested waters on Earth. The Arleigh Burke was designed with a very different philosophy. Developed during the Cold War, the Burke was meant to be a versatile, sac-steep or de saboso mass-produced workhorse. The U.S. Navy wanted a ship that could perform many missions: air defense, missile defense, anti-submarine warfare, while being affordable enough to build in large numbers. And that strategy worked. Over 70 Arleigh Burkes have been built, and they form the backbone of U.S. naval power today. But that success has come with limitations. The Burke design is old. The hull dates back to the late 1970s. Over the years, the Navy has added newer radars, more powerful computers, and advanced missile systems. But every upgrade adds weight and demands more power. Today's newest Flight 3 Burkes are essentially maxed out. Engineers have pushed the design to its physical and electrical limits. There is very little room left for major future upgrades. The Type 055 does not have that problem. It was designed from the start with growth in mind. Its larger hull provides abundant electrical power, internal space, and cooling capacity. This allows it to integrate future technologies, high-energy lasers, advanced electronic warfare systems, and new missile types, without redesigning the ship. In simple terms, the Arleigh Burke is near the end of its growth curve. The Type 055 is just beginning. But size alone doesn't win battles. Weapons do. The missile advantage that changes everything. Modern naval warfare is defined by missiles. Battles are decided at long range, often without ships ever seeing each other visually. Whoever can launch more missiles from farther away with greater accuracy usually wins. This is where the Type 055 becomes truly concerning. The Arleigh Burke is equipped with 96 vertical launch system cells. These cells can carry a mix of missiles, air defense interceptors, cruise missiles, anti-submarine weapons, and ballistic missile defense interceptors. The Type 055 carries 112 VLS cells. That is 16 more missiles than the Burke. In a real conflict, those extra cells matter. Naval engagements often come down to missile saturation, launching so many missiles that the enemy's defenses become overwhelmed. Every additional missile increases the chance of a hit. But the real difference isn't just the number of missiles. It's what those missiles are designed to do. One of the Type 055's primary anti-ship weapons is the YJ-18 cruise missile. It flies extremely low over the ocean, staying below radar coverage for much of its flight. For most of its journey, it travels at subsonic speed. Then, in the final moments before impact, it accelerates to supersonic speed. That sudden burst drastically reduces reaction time for enemy defenses. More concerning is the YJ-21. The YJ-21 is an anti-ship ballistic missile. Unlike cruise missiles, ballistic missiles travel high into the atmosphere before plunging back down at extreme speeds. The YJ-21 is reportedly capable of reaching hypersonic velocities, around Mach 10, during its terminal phase. Chinese sources describe it as specifically designed to destroy aircraft carriers. This creates a completely different threat profile. The U.S. Navy currently has no equivalent ship-launched anti-ship ballistic missile. American destroyers rely on subsonic and supersonic cruise missiles for maritime strike. The existence of the YJ-21 forces U.S. carrier strike groups to operate farther from China's coastline. That extended standoff distance limits the effectiveness of carrier-based aircraft and complicates American operations in the Western Pacific. Defensively, the Type 055 carries HHQ-9B and HHQ-9C surface-to-air missiles. These are China's equivalents to the U.S. Navy's SM-2 and SM-6 missiles and are designed to intercept aircraft, drones, and cruise missiles at long range. While these Chinese systems are less combat-proven than their American counterparts, their reported performance is competitive. Where the U.S. Navy still holds a clear edge is ballistic missile defense. Arleigh Burke destroyers can carry SM-3 interceptors capable of destroying ballistic missiles in space. This capability has been tested repeatedly and forms a key part of U.S. missile defense strategy. The Type 055 does not yet have a confirmed equivalent system, so while the Type 055 may have greater offensive punch, the Burke still offers superior protection against ballistic missile threats, but missiles are useless if you can't find your target. That brings us to sensors. Sensors, stealth, and the technology gap. A modern warship is less about armor and guns and more about sensors, data processing, and networking. Seeing first often means shooting first, and shooting accurately. The Type 055 uses a dual-band active electronically scanned array radar system. One radar band focuses on long-range detection, while another handles precision tracking and fire control. These radars are integrated into a sleek, angular superstructure designed to reduce radar cross-section. The ship's surfaces are angled to deflect radar waves. Antennas and sensors are enclosed. Missile launchers are flush with the deck. All of this makes the Type 055 harder to detect than older warship designs. The Arleigh Burke, these ROE, particularly earlier versions, was not designed with stealth as a top priority. Its superstructure is cluttered, with exposed equipment and sensors. While newer Flight 3 Burkes improve radar signature management, they are still constrained by an older hull design. Where the Burke excels is in combat system maturity. The Aegis Combat System is the most experienced naval combat system in history. It has been refined through decades of real-world operations, including missile defense missions, live combat engagements, and constant fleet exercises. The newest AN/SPY-6 radar on Flight 3 Burks represents a massive leap forward. It is far more sensitive than previous radars and capable of tracking hundreds of targets simultaneously, including ballistic missiles. The Type 055 systems are modern and impressive, but they lack real combat experience. That matters more than most people realize. War has a way of exposing weaknesses that never appear during peacetime testing. Still, the Type 055's large hull provides room for improvement. Its systems can be upgraded, refined, and expanded as technology advances. And that long-term potential is exactly what worries U.S. planners. The anti-submarine warfare wildcard. Submarines are the most dangerous threat in naval warfare. They are stealthy, lethal, and extremely difficult to detect. Both the Type 055 and the Arleigh Burke are equipped for anti-submarine warfare, but experience matters enormously in this mission. The U.S. Navy has been hunting submarines since World War II. Its sonar operators, tactics, training pipelines, and coordination with submarines and aircraft are unmatched. The Arleigh Burke carries advanced sonar systems, anti-submarine rockets, torpedoes, and 2 MH-60R helicopters, each capable of detecting and attacking submarines far beyond the ship itself. The Type 055 carries similar systems on paper, including sonar, rocket-delivered torpedoes, and ASW helicopters. The difference lies in experience. Anti-submarine warfare is as much art as science. It requires years of training, pattern recognition, and operational knowledge. The plan is improving rapidly, but it is still building that institutional experience. In a Pacific conflict, submarines, both American and Chinese, will likely be the most lethal platforms in the fight. Surface ships like the Type 055 and Arleigh Burke will constantly be listening for threats they cannot see. What this means for the Pacific. The Type 055 is not just a ship, it is a message. China is building a blue water navy capable of sustained operations far from its coast. The Type 055 is the centerpiece of that effort, a ship designed to escort carriers, lead task forces, and project power across the Indo-Pacific and beyond. China has already launched 8 Type 055ES, with more expected. These ships are being paired with modern aircraft carriers like the Type 003 Fujian, forming strike groups that increasingly resemble American ones. For regional powers, Japan, Australia, South Korea, India, this is a wake-up call. Defense budgets are rising. Joint exercises with the U.S. are increasing. The Pacific is becoming more crowded, more militarized, and more dangerous. The Arleigh Burke remains a formidable warship, but it is no longer operating in an uncontested environment. The verdict: dangerous, but not invincible. The Type 055 is absolutely dangerous. It is large, modern, heavily armed, and designed specifically to challenge U.S. naval dominance. It has more missiles, greater growth potential, and a stealthier design than the Arleigh Burke, but it is not invincible. The Burke benefits from decades of combat experience, a proven Aegis system, superior ballistic missile defense, and highly trained crews. In a real war, neither ship would fight alone. They would operate as part of massive, complex task forces involving submarines, aircraft, satellites, and land-based missiles. The true danger of the Type 055 is not that it can defeat a Burke one-on-one. It's that it represents a Chinese Navy that is no longer playing catch-up. China is competing, and that changes the balance of power at sea. The Type 055 is just one part of China's naval expansion, but it's the clearest sign yet that Beijing intends to challenge U.S. dominance in the Pacific. The U.S. Navy is responding, but the clock is ticking. If you want to understand how America plans to counter this shift in naval power, watch the next video. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more Anchor Watch.